President Trump's 15% tariff on Nigeria will kick in at midnight Eastern Time. Trade between the two nations is almost in balance. Look at that. You can see just about there. The US exported $4.3 billion worth of goods to Nigeria last year. Nigerian exports to the US, well, you can see the numbers for yourself. Nigeria primarily sells oil, fertilizers, to the United States. The tariffs threaten to slow down its economy. The World Bank says it expanded 3.4%. It was the best mark for Nigeria in a decade, besides the COVID recovery. Jumoke Oduwole is the Nigerian Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. The Minister is with me now from Lagos. Minister, thank you. Look, nobody wanted to have a tariff number, but 15% was probably the best that anybody was going to get, except one or two exceptions, say, for example, the UK.
Thanks, Richard. Good to see you again. So yeah, 15%, starting from 14%. Nigeria remains responsive. We're not reacting. We're focused on our reforms. We're focused on our 8-point agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
But what effect do you believe it's going to have? Where will the strain be in the economy? Because the economy is, if I look at the exports, it's just about in balance. So where do you expect and anticipate difficulties?
Well, it's mostly an energy trading relationship. We're waiting to see what happens with AGOA in September. Non-oil exports are fertilizer-led, some cocoa, and other commodities. There are other markets also, Richard. We're looking at our integration strategy across Africa, the African Continental Free Trade Area. Exports, non-oil exports to the rest of Africa are up 24% year on year in Q1 this year. So the world is a big place. Yes, there's competitiveness coming into the US market, but we're also exploring other alternatives.
What does that mean? Alternatives as in?
Alternative markets. We have relationships, like for instance, urea fertilizer is in high demand in Brazil. We have trading partnerships with China, with Japan, with the UAE. And so we continue to look for opportunities for our Nigerian businesses. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's agenda is really focused on bolstering Nigerian domestic investors and supporting them in market access and access to capital.
You see, this is one of the things that people are talking about, that what the Trump tariffs are going to, in some way, rewire global trade. And people like yourselves, and I know, for example, the Canadians are certainly looking for new markets. We'll see more South-South trade. We'll see more horizontal trade as people try to replace, over time, US markets.
Certainly. Well, the U.S. will remain a strategic trading partner. We have our commercial investment program, which we started in June of this year, focusing on infrastructure, agriculture, and digital trade. But like you said, we're exploring a lot of alternatives. You recall when we discussed at Davos earlier this year, I told you we'll be watching the body language and that the world is a big place. We do have old friends, and we certainly are making new friends.
If we look at the economy, the Nigerian, I always, and you and I have talked about this before, the Nigerian economy is always one of such enormous potential. And one always wonders what it's going to take to reach that potential. Certainly, there have been huge improvements on things like transparency, corruption. Reasonable people can sort of say maybe not as much as there should have been, but at least the movement has been in the right direction. What more do you think needs to be done to help the Nigerian economy move to that next stage?
I always try to make the point, Richard, that the world potential is really quite overflowed when it comes to the Nigerian economy. What is the Nigerian economy delivering now? A huge market proposition. When I think about the investors and the amount of attention and attraction we've had, particularly this year, 2025 being an inflection point for this economy, even the toughest critics will agree that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has stabilized the economy, FX, removal of subsidies, and you've seen our new tax infrastructure coming on board at the beginning of next year. That's a huge overhaul. So monetary, fiscal, and trade policy as well really aligned to deliver value for investors. We've had a lot of interest from different regions across the world. We are also pushing actively across Africa, and the domestic investors supporting them. So we're kind of moving in tandem in concentric circles, West African region, the rest of Africa, and the rest of the world.
I'm grateful, Minister. You and I need to talk more on Crespin's business, and certainly we need to be doing time in Lagos before not too long. It'd be lovely to be there. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.